Okay, so this video is honestly, I would say I'm gonna show you on example one. No, not on example one. On a later example, I'm gonna show you the reason why I do this. Okay, so elimination I use on the really hard problems where I can't solve. Okay, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna multiply. To do this, you're gonna multiply one or both equations by a value that makes coefficients equal. Okay, so I'm going to tell you right now, the reason why I really want to make sure you know how to do these is you're going to move along into math and you're going to get into algebra 2, and you are going to need to be able to do this process not on these easy ones, but on like complicated, like where a parabola hits a parabola, which could end up being like 4 times. Like it could be a lot of times. So you got all kinds of craziness that's going to happen. So you kind of have to understand these processes. Okay, so on number 1, I would let you solve this however you wanted. Okay, but I'm going to show you what, I'm going to show you substitution, elimination, and I don't really care. Okay, but I'm going to start by saying if I did substitution, okay, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do substitution. Wouldn't I minus the 3y? I'd have x equals, and you can just watch this if you want or whatever. You can write it over here to the side. I don't really care. I just kind of want to show you this. And so then I'm going to put this in for x, and I get 2 times negative 3y plus 6 minus 7y equals a negative 1. So multiply in negative 6y plus 12 minus 7y equals a negative 1. Like terms, that's a negative 13y, and I'd minus 12 to the other side, and I get a negative 13. Divide by negative 13, divide by negative 13, and y equals 1. So my point would have a y value of 1. I'm going to take that back up, so that would be negative 3 plus 6 is 3. Okay, so I can do this problem by substitution. And on the test, I'm okay. You can choose. This one, I actually, any of the methods would be fine. You're going to see it's about the same amount of work. Okay, what elimination is you either make the x's the same or the y's the same. I'm going to choose to make the x's the same because all I would have to do is times the top by 2. So I would write this example down. We're going to make the x's into 2's. Okay, and so if I times by 2, I have to times everything in that equation by 2. So that's 2x plus 6y equals 6. And then I'm going to leave the other equation the same. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do, because they don't eliminate, because they're both positive, I probably could have times by a negative 2, because then that would have made my signs different. Now these eliminate. So I end up with a negative 13y. Oh, I forgot to times this by 2. No wonder you're probably sitting there going, what did you do wrong? I forgot to times 6 by 2. So that's a negative 12. So anyway, now I those cancel and I get a negative 13, right? Divide both sides by negative 13 and y equals 1, which is what we got, right? We know our y value is 1. So now I'm going to take this 1 and I can put it back into any equation. So I'm just going to put it right there. I could have put it in the other one, but the numbers were smaller. That's why I chose it. So 3 times 1 is 3. And then I would minus the 3 to the other side. And I get 3. X equals 3. Which is the answer I got over there. I got the same exact answer. Okay. And if you look at the amount of steps, it's about the same. So honestly, this problem, I don't really think it matters. Now I am going to show you the other thing you could have done. And you don't need to write this down. I just want to really make sure you understand all of these methods. So we know we got that answer. I'm going to get that out of the way. The other thing you could have done is you could have made the y's both 21. The problem with making the y's 21 is that now you're going to have to multiply both equations. So you would have to multiply the top equation by 7, 7x plus 21y equals 42. And you would have to multiply the bottom equation by 3, because that would make that 21. So this one, I personally probably wouldn't have made them 21s because now I have to multiply both equations. Okay, now the 21s cancel and I get 13x equals 39. Divide by 13, divide by 13, and x equals 3, which if I look, isn't that what I've been getting? And then I take that 3 and I substitute it into anywhere. So if I put the 3 in there, I would have 3 plus 3y equals 6. I would minus the 3 and get 3y equals 3, divide by 3 and get 1. So y equals 1. So I got the same answer. So honestly, me teaching you these methods is not, I'm not going to say solve this problem by elimination. You've just got to know which method is going to be the best to choose. So when there is a variable all by itself, then it's kind of up for grabs. You can do whatever you want. It would be easy to do substitution. It would be easy to do elimination because I would just have to times the bottom by a -3 and the y's cancel. Okay, but in the scheme of things, you can do whatever you want. But on this assignment and this assignment only, I would like you to do elimination. And then when you get to, so you're going to have an assignment where it says up at the top, solve by elimination. And then when you get to this assignment, it wants you to compare systems. So it wants you to choose. It says in the directions, choose a system. And yes, I know you don't have group method, you don't have a group, but I just want you to look at the problem and choose and get me a solution. You just don't have somebody to check it with. Okay, same thing here. If the directions don't say, it says solve by substitution, solve by elimination. If the directions don't say, I don't care. Okay, so let's take a look at the next one. I would like you to do this by elimination. So I could make the x's 18, but then I would have to multiply both. I can make the y's 3, and so if I multiply this bottom one by a -3, they would cancel. So the top line stays the same. I'm not messing with it. But the bottom line becomes a -6x minus 3y equals -15. Those cancel, and I get 3x equals a -3. Divide by 3, and x equals a -1. So I can put that back into either equation. That one has smaller numbers. 2 times a -1 is a -2 plus y equals 5. So I would add 2 and my answer is 7. So I get the answer of -1, 7. Okay, so I would like you to pause the video and I would like you to try number 3 and number 4. Okay, by elimination. Pause and do 3 and 4. Okay, so on 3 and on 4, I personally would choose to make these into 4s because because if I do the x's, it's going to be 15. So I'm going to times everything on this equation by 4. I don't have to do a negative because they're going to cancel. So 12x minus 4y, 14 times 4 is 56. Okay, and then the bottom equation stays the same. So these cancel, and I get 17x equals 68. Divide both sides by 17, and x equals 4. So I can put that back into either equation. So I'm just throwing it in there because the numbers are smaller. 3 times 4 is 12. So I'm going to minus 12 and get a -y equals 2. Divide by a -1, and my y value is a -2. So that is my answer for -2. Okay. All right. On number 4, that one's kind of tricky. That's why I wanted you to do it. You can make them 5s, the x's 5s or the y's 2s. I would probably choose the y's 2s because it's a negative and a positive right here. So they'll cancel. So I'm going to times this guy all by 2. But it really doesn't matter. If you did it the other way, don't erase. As long as we have the same answer, it doesn't matter. Okay, so now these cancel. And you get 7x equals a -56, so divide by 7, and x equals a -8. Oops. So my coordinate is x is a -8. I'm going to take that and put it back into either one. I'm going to go there because the numbers are smaller. So -8 plus y equals a -3. I'm going to add 8, and y equals 5. Okay? And that's what I mean. Like I could put 8 in there too. That's when I say the numbers are smaller. -8 times 5 is a -40. Okay, so I'd add 40 and divide by -2. And I still get 5, right? So it doesn't really matter. What I mean when I say it doesn't matter which one you put it back into, oh, I'm going to choose the one with smaller numbers. I just like to choose the one with smaller numbers because it's less math, right? And I can make mistakes when I do math. So if I can do smaller numbers, I just feel more comfortable with it. All right, so let's take a look at number 8, the notes page 8. Okay, I know we skipped 5, but I don't think we need to do all of these, but I would like to do a few more. So I would like you to try number 6. Okay, please attempt number 6. It's a hard question. I would like you to try number 6. All right, so probably number 6, the easiest thing to do would be to multiply the top equation by a -2. So you'd get a -6x minus 2y equals a -4. And then the other equation is 6x plus 2y equals a positive. Okay, wait, those cancel. Those cancel, so I have 0. And these cancel, so I have 0 equals 0, which is true. So this goes back to those problems where you have all solutions. Everything works. In the scheme of a line, that means that these are the same line. Okay, now if I would have done the math and let's say it was 0 equals 8, then that goes back to what we learned before where it's not the same line, it's parallel lines, they're never going to hit. All right, so now glancing at 7, here is the reason I'm teaching you elimination. If you did number 7 by substitution, like if you solve for this, you're going to have fractions. You're going to have -3, you're going to have 3/4 and 6/4. If you solve for the other one, you're going to have eighths and you're going to have fractions. And people do not like fractions if they can stay away from them. So that's where elimination comes in. So up to this point, I would have done any of these problems with substitution or elimination because they had, like if I look at this, they had a variable that was all by itself. They had that y, or they had a y, or they had x's, and they were all by themselves. Okay, but in this case, they don't. So here is where I'm telling you, you can do it by substitution, but I would rather try to like run through a steel wall than do that because it's going to be fractions and ugly and I don't even want to think about it. It hurts my head. So my options here, you got to think a little bit before you start. I can make these both 21, right? And then they would cancel. Or I could make these both 8, right? Now making them 8, one of the equations already is 8. So it might be easier to make them 8, and I would want to make this top equation a -8 so they cancel. So I'm going to go with y's equal 8. So I'm going to times this top equation by a -2. So -6x minus 8y equals a -12. And then the other equation is going to stay the same. Those cancel, and I get x equals a -2. Okay? If you were doing this by substitution, you would still be working on getting the first point because you would have so many fractions. You would have fractions times fractions divided by fractions, and no. Okay, this way I don't have to deal with that. So now I take the -2 and I plug it back anywhere. So like I said earlier, I like to pick the one with the smaller numbers. So 3 times a -2 is a -6. So I'm going to add 6 and divide by 4. So y equals 3. Okay, so by stopping and thinking before you start the problem, you could make your life a whole lot easier. Because if I made them both 21s, and I wouldn't write this down, I'm just trying to show you how I made my life easier, I would have to times both equations. I would have to times the top one by a -7, so -21x minus 28y equals a -42, and I'd have to times the bottom by 3. So 21x plus 24y equals 30. Okay, so I did a lot of multiplying there. Like I got really big numbers compared to, look at the red over here. Those are way smaller. So you're going to get the same answer though, because these cancel. You get a -4y equals a -12. Divide by a -4. And now you know y equals 3. So it's not like, and so then you would plug it in and you get the same answer. So you can make the x's or you can change the y's. It doesn't matter. You will get the same answer. I just like to kind of look and decide which one would be easier. Okay, I think I would like to take a look at number 8 because number 8 is a really good example because either one of them is going to be easier. So it's kind of like, which number do you like better? Because on number 8, you're either going to have to make your x's can both be 15, right? Or you can make your y's both be 12s. Okay, so it doesn't really matter. You're going to have to times both equations. So you can look at those and go, hey, I like 12 better because it's smaller. Or you can look at those and say 15 is my favorite number. So it doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to times the top. I'm going to do 12s. Okay, I'm going to times the top equation by a -4 because the signs are the same. So I've got to make one of them negative. So negative 12x minus 12y equals a negative 36. Oops, sorry, I don't know what my volume's on. And then on the other one, I've got to make that times that all by 3. So I'd have 15x plus 12y equals 30. So my y's cancel, and I get 3x equals a negative 6. Divide by 3, and x equals a negative 2. So now you can put that negative 2 back into either equation. I'm going to choose the one with smaller numbers, so I'm choosing that guy. So when I put that back in there, I'm going to come over here. 3 times a negative 2 is a negative 6. I'm going to add 6 and divide by 3. So y equals 5. Okay, so sometimes you have to times both equations. And sometimes you can choose just to times one equation. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so I would like you to pause the video. And I would like you just to do 9. Something weird is going to happen on 10. So I would like you to do 9 first. And then we'll take a look at 10. Okay, together. 10 is a little different. All right, so on 9s, I can make my x's 35s or I can make my y's 90. Personally, 35 is smaller, so I'm going to go with that. So, and their signs are the same, so I'm going to have to times this all by a negative 7. 70. And this I would times by 5. Sorry, that TV in the background is very loud because my husband has an ear infection and he's deaf. So these cancel. And so I get, what do I get? What did I forget to do here? Oh, that's 50. It's like, I think I wrote a 0, but it didn't come out. 13y equals 65. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 13 and y equals negative 5. So that's that second value is a negative 5. Okay, and then I'm going to take that negative 5 and I'm going to plug it back into either. So I'm going to plug it in there. So 5x, 9 times a negative 5 is a negative 45 equals a negative 10. I'm going to add 45 and get 5x equals 35. I'm going to divide by 5 and get x equals 7. Okay. All right. So that is my answer for that. All right. So let's take a look at number 10. I hope you notice number 10. You can't do elimination yet because every one of these problems is lined up. So I have my x's together. I have my y's together. I have equals together. And then I have numbers. Right? So they're lined up. But if I look here, I have my x's, my equal, I don't have them together. So I've got it. It's kind of like when you add decimals. You have to have the places together. So I need to, before I start this problem, I'm going to have to minus the 4y so that I can get them lined up. Now, once you do that, you have a couple options. You can make the x's both 10s, right? Or you can make the y's both 12s. It doesn't matter. Like, seriously. So I'm going to go ahead and make the x's 10s. So I would times, because the signs are opposite, so then I don't have to worry about changing it. Okay, so that would be a negative 10x minus 12y equals 6. And I'm going to times this equation all by 5. So I'd have 10x minus 20y equals 18 times 5 is 90. So I end up with a negative 32y equals 96. So divide by a negative 32, divide by a negative 32, and y equals a negative 3. So I'm going to take that -3 and plug it back into either equation and anywhere. So I'm going to take this -3, plug it back in. -4 times a -3 is a positive 12. Be careful with your sign. And here I'm going to minus 12, and 2x equals 6. Divide by 2, and x equals 3. So my answer here is 3, -3. Okay. All right, so you have to make sure they're lined up. So I would like you to do 11 and 12. Pause the video, do 11 and 12, and then we'll go over it. So to line this up, I'm going to have to move the 6y over. So I get 2x plus 4y equals 6. That stays the same. Here I would add 6y. So I'm going to get 3x plus 6y equals 12. So I can make my x's 6's or I can make my y's 12's. I'm just going to go with x's 6's because it doesn't matter. So I would times this all by a -3 because the signs are the same. So -6x minus 12y equals a -18. And this one I'm going to times by a -2. And I get a -6x minus 12. Oh no, I want to times it by a +2, right? I want the signs to be different. So +2. So plus 12y equals 24, right? Okay, so these cancel, so I'm left with 0. All my variables cancel, so that means that it's either all solutions and it's the same line, or it's no solutions and it's parallel. Well, this is 6, so 0 doesn't equal 6, so this is a no solution, which means that these lines are parallel because they never hit. That's what the no solution means. Okay, so same thing on the next. I got to move the 7 over. So that's going to be a -2x plus 7y equals 26. So I moved it. So here I can make my x's 14s or my y's 35s. I'm a fan of smaller numbers, so I'm going to make my x's 14s. So I'm going to times the top by 2 because the signs are different. So because one's a positive, one's a negative. So it's 14x plus 10y equals a -26. And then on this one, I'm going to times them all by 7. So I get a -14x plus 49y equals, I do not know what 7 times 26 is. Someone's going to have to help me out here. 7 times 26 is 182. Okay, so these cancel and I end up with 59y equals 156. Divide by 59, divide by 59, and oh, crap. I lost a sign. That's a negative. So it's a -39. You were probably going, what did I do wrong? Or maybe you knew you were right and I sucked. So either way, y equals a -4. Okay, so I'm going to take that -4 back into any equation. This one has small numbers, and I remembered my negative there. Okay, and so, because I moved it to the other side, right, and I messed that up. So when I do a negative times a negative, it's a positive. So positive 28 equals 26. I'm going to minus 28, and I get a -2x equals a -2. Divide by a -2, and my answer is 1. Okay, and so you might have solved a different way, but I'm double checking right now. That is the right answer. So you have some assignments that go along with this. You have some different days, a couple days worth of just practice, practice, practice.